important committee. And so we're going to start off with some introductions. So in no particular order, I'm going to call your name as I see it on the screen. And if you could just introduce yourself, the organization that you represent, and perhaps just a little brief intro of what your role is, that would be really helpful for context for the rest of this meeting. So I appreciate that in advance. So without any further ado, Shaylin.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shaylin Toomey. I am with an agency called Project Amore, and we do home and community-based services in Pima County. And I am the executive director for 21 plus years. So been around a while.
Thank you, Shaylin. And for those that aren't familiar with your organization, can you just offer a little additional context for what you do in our region?
Right. So we actually run after school programs, and we pick children up from special needs children up from schools and bring them into our program. And we also do out of school time programs, which include summer, winter, spring, summer, and fall. And we do lots of outings, getting kiddos out in the community, and movies and parks and splash pads and you name it. So we do a lot of that, primarily with children. We do have some of our children that are getting into adulthood. So we're looking at expanding a little more in that area, possibly down the road as well.
Thank you, Shaylin. I appreciate it. Steve Knapp.
Good morning. My name is Steve Knapp. I'm with Hope Inc. I'm the operations manager, and we are a peer-run organization working in all aspects of behavioral health, criminal justice, and substance abuse reduction. My job is to make sure there's paint on the walls and the wheels on the bus go round and round.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you being here. Haley Tamon.
Hi, my name is Haley Thoman. I work at Direct Advocacy and Resource Center. I'm their associate director, so I oversee our core services. Direct is the Center for Independence for, there's 5 of us in the state. We serve the 5 southeast counties. So Pima is one of them. We serve Cochise, Graham, Greenlee, Pima and Santa Cruz counties. And we just work with people with disabilities, helping them achieve their self-identified goals to live more independently.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for being a part of this meeting today. And then I see Lisa James.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Lisa Reams. I am the Vice President for Programs and Services at Pima Council on Aging. And Pima Council on Aging is the designated area agency on aging for all of Pima County, providing services for older adults to help them have the resources and support they need to age safely and as independently as possible.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. And then Elizabeth Cozy.
Good morning, everybody. I'm not sure if my camera is working. Sorry about that. I'm here from the United Way of Tucson in Southern Arizona, and I oversee both our financial wellness and elder alliance work.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate it. Let's see if there's anyone else that I may have overlooked while we were doing those introductions. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide. And then if someone else joins the call here in just a moment or two, I will do my best to circle back and give them an opportunity to introduce themselves as well. So we're going to move on to the next part on the agenda, which is in-kind reporting. So regional planning efforts are enhanced by recording time donated by attendees, volunteers, and participants. And of course, PAG collects data on the time dedicated to those meetings and activities to apply for use as matching funds for grants in federal dollars. So if you're paid with federal dollars, this would be a great opportunity to let us know now so that we do not account for your time as part of our in-kind reporting process. So you can verbally acknowledge that now, or send me an email saying, please don't include us in the in-kind reporting because we're paid through federal dollars. So time spent in preparation for this meeting will be estimated by PAG staff who are knowledgeable of the agenda and of course the meeting materials. And at the conclusion of this meeting, the session report will automatically calculate your time spent in this particular meeting. So time spent working on PAG or RTA initiatives, programs, and special projects may also be eligible for consideration for matching funds. So just as a recap, if there's anyone whose role is paid through federal dollars, please let us know now so we don't account for it in our in-kind reporting for this particular meeting.
Hi, this is Haley. Part of my role is funded through federal dollars, so.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
And this is Lisa Reams. Mine is as well.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next item in the agenda. And so for those who were a part of the previous meeting, there was some guidelines set forth for the opportunity for local area experts to provide a presentation pertinent to some guidelines that are rooted in the fact sheet templates. And so you could opt to submit a fact sheet and do a presentation, or just submit a fact sheet that was provided to you. And there was a fact sheet template pertinent to the different broad service categories for SSBG funding, which is the genesis of this particular meeting. So at this point, I'm going to ask if anyone wanted to do a presentation based on those guidelines. And if so, we could kind of get a sense for how many presentations we'll be doing, and then try to orchestrate kind of a particular order for those presentations. So if you feel like you would like to do a presentation based on those guidelines of the fact sheet, please let me know now so we can go ahead and facilitate that.
I would like to, Janine.
Okay, great. All right, so Lisa. And then anyone else wanting to do a presentation today based on the fact sheet guidelines? Looking to see if a hand's going up, the hand through the modalities of technology, not an actual hand. Okay, all right. So it looks like Lisa, you're, at least for right now, our only presenter unless someone else joins the call that wants to do a presentation. So I believe you have the opportunity to share your screen if there was something that you wanted to share, those that are on the call today, but that's entirely your choice. So I'm going to allow you to do your presentation at this point, and just be cognizant of the guidelines in terms of the rules are in place for the presentation that were described on the template. So
Sure.
yours.
Thank you very much, Janine, for the opportunity. I don't have anything prepared as far as like a fancy PowerPoint to show anyone, but I did prepare a fact sheet. And I thought it would be nice to take just a few minutes because one of our roles from Pima Council on Aging is to keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on with older adults and their needs in the community, and to share that with others. So I wanted to take the opportunity to share just a few things with everyone about what we're seeing and experiencing. Just as a little bit of backstory, so what it means to be a designated area agency on aging is we have roles. There are 622 area agencies on aging designated across the country, and we have roles that we're required to play and that we're federally and state funded to play in our communities. And two of those roles, well, three of those roles related to this. One is maintaining a helpline for information and referral for older adults. One is maintaining the home and community-based system that helps older adults live independently in the community, and we do that through a network of providers. And another is maintaining the home delivered meals system in the community. So two of those, the home and community-based services and home delivered meals, are directly bullet points for SSBG consideration under this group. So I wanted to speak to those directly. The intention isn't per se to say this is what Pima Council on Aging is experiencing just as a private separate organization, but rather as our role being federally and state designated to provide those services to this community. So it's important to understand that during the pandemic, as with a lot of social service organizations, we received some pretty significant COVID stimulus funds through the CARES Act and through ARPA funds, which allowed us to significantly increase home delivered meals services and in-home support services and helpline services to older adults. So for 3 years, 3.5 years, that's really enabled us to meet the increasing need in the community with services responsive to those needs. What's happening now is those funds are all required to be expended no later than September 2024. Some of them are going to be gone before that just because they've been used up. So we're faced, as are many organizations and other AAAs across the country, with having to figure out how to actually scale back services because there's no way to sustain them at the higher level that we were able to do with the higher COVID stimulus funds. The challenge with that is that the needs for older adults has not gone down during that time and is in fact as high or higher than it's ever been. Not necessarily as a direct result of COVID impacts at this point, but more the result of the economic condition that we're seeing in our community. So that's the greater than 30% housing cost increase, the increase in utility costs and food costs. And for older adults, at least the ones that call us that are living on a fixed income, their income has not in any way increased commensurate with the increase in expenses. So what it's left is, so for example, in the helpline that we maintain for older adults for all of Pima County, where we're not a crisis service provider at all. This is like an information and referral helpline. Upwards of 60% of the calls coming into the helpline at this point are older adults who are desperate and cannot meet their basic needs. So they cannot meet their basic needs related to nutrition, food, housing security, keeping their electricity or gas or water turned on, those types of things. So it's kind of forced us as the area agency on aging into more of a role of trying to figure out how to provide better connection services, better, more robust supports for these older adults, and work with other organizations in the community to meet those needs. So what we're seeing now is, at one point we were the Home and Community-Based Services System, which is what provides that in-home support for vulnerable older adults. At one point we were case managing up to 1,300 clients, and we still had a wait list. We're now just over 1,000. And we'll be actually anticipate going down closer to 900 over the course of the next several months, which means, but the need hasn't decreased. So it means that the wait list and for those services is growing, and the length of time for people to get those in-home supportive services is lengthening. Very similar for the home delivered meals system. This is Pima Meals on Wheels. At one point we had about 1,250 clients who were receiving home delivered meals. And we're now, with our funding projections over the next several months, having to decrease that to 800 clients. So that's a decrease of over 30%. The other meal provider in town, mainly being Mobile Meals, is seeing similar significant funding challenges and having to increase fees for meals and services, and clients are calling the helpline, the Pima County helpline, even more, wanting meal services because they're not able to afford them elsewhere. Or we're now getting a lot of people calling wanting meal services because they just can't afford the cost of food, which is not the criteria for home delivered meals, but just more and more people that. So these are really large problems, and unfortunately the services and the service dollars are shrinking at the same time. So really want everybody to understand that PCOA, as the designated area agency on aging, is doing everything we can to collaborate with others and minimize these impacts to the community. But really, we're deeply concerned about the combination of the increased need and the reduced funding, and what that's going to mean for the older adults in our community in these areas in 2024. Thank you for the opportunity to share that and for listening.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. I do see we have one other person who joined the meeting today. So what I would like to do is make sure that we do appropriate introductions for people who have just joined the call, but also extend that opportunity for an additional presentation. If anyone has decided that they'd like to do one, we can go ahead and forward with that. Otherwise, we'll move to the next item on the agenda for reviewing of the fact sheets. So I see Malia, I think that's hopefully the right pronunciation. So Malia, welcome. If you'd like to do a brief introduction, just state your name, the organization you represent, and just a little bit about your role, that would be great.
So I apologize. I'm actually homesick, which is why
no.
I'm not on camera and I was late. But I'm from the Community Food Bank of Southern Arizona and just wanted to make sure that I'm here to participate and I can answer any questions as best as I can while I'm here.
All right. Thank you, Malia. I appreciate it. I hope you're feeling better soon. But thank you for investing time in this meeting today. I appreciate it. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and extend the opportunity for any other presentations before we move forward to the next item on the agenda. If there's anyone else that would like to do a presentation at this point, please let me know now so we can go ahead and turn it over to you at this time. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move forward with the next item on the agenda. So I believe the next item on the agenda is the review of fact sheet information. Yes. So so with that in mind, for those that were a part of the last meeting, you might recall that we went over the fact sheet templates, and in the emails that followed the last meeting leading up to today's meeting, you should have received a copy of the different fact sheet templates. They all are essentially the same template, it's just they're divided up based on the broad service categories. So with regard to the fact sheet templates, there was one for Workforce Development Administration, and there was one for Division of Aging and Adult Services, et cetera. So with that in mind, each fact sheet had essentially some core elements to it, which is pertinent to what we're going to be reviewing here shortly when we review the information. It should have included a regional needs overview, so kind of giving a summary of the regional needs pertinent to this particular category, and that the summary should point to the associated service intents. And so in that same email, you should have received a copy of the state fiscal year 2025 social service block grant funding and service intents document that showed the funding allocations that are proposed for these different broad service categories. And then within the template, there was a section for changes in services. And so there was an opportunity to describe changes in regional services pertinent to that particular category. And of course, those particular changes in services should point to the associated service intents and should be connected to any services that are eligible for SSBG funding. And I think that's a very key point in that particular section, is that it needs to be connected to services that are eligible for SSBG funding. And then of course, there was a section for changes in funding. So if you are filling out this section or have filled out this particular section, you're speaking to an opportunity to describe any known changes in funding pertinent to the particular category and the respective service intents. So I think Lisa in her presentation, she characterized a little bit of that. So that would be a good example of that. And then of course, there's a section for regional outcomes and of course the effectiveness of SSBG funding. And so in that section, you would be providing any information or data to support the regional outcomes and effectiveness of SSBG funding. And of course, once again, the data should be in alignment with regional needs and not program centric. And that's a very key component that we need to emphasize, that it should be in alignment with regional needs and not program centric, because we do not want to walk into a space that suggests that we are lobbying. So the data needs to be in alignment with regional needs and not be program centric. So the next part is supporting reference information and documentation. So you have the opportunity to provide any references sources that would support your data, your insights that you are providing through this particular template. And so we encourage you to use that. In the same breath, it could also be community partner information, et cetera. And then, of course, the last section was any additional insights or concerns. So there you had an opportunity to briefly state any additional insights or concerns that would be pertinent to that particular category. I know in Lisa's presentation, one of the concerns that she spoke to was how the need for providing services for aging adults in our region is increasing while funding appears to be decreasing, right? So that would be one example. So briefly stating any additional insights or concerns pertinent to that category, excuse me, and the connection should be made only to service intents associated with that particular category and for programs that are, of course, eligible for SSBG funding. And so those were the elements of the templates that were provided. Each template is orchestrated exactly the same. The only thing that changes is actually the broad service category that's referenced at the top. And at the top for each of the broad services category, it kind of gave a high level overview of what is meant by that particular broad service category. So hopefully everyone received that and had an opportunity to fill one in. And if you did fill one in, or you're in the throes of still kind of putting some final touches on it, I encourage you to make sure that you submit it so that we have that as part of our process for collecting regional input. The next meeting, just to kind of as a foreshadow, will be next week, Tuesday, the 16th at 10 a.m., kind of same time, same place, right? And we will actually be moving forward with the process, and on the agenda, which I believe is already posted, it does speak to how we will be looking to make recommendations pertinent to the funding. So having the fact sheet submitted will be an important element. So if you haven't already submitted one, I encourage you to do so. But this is the opportunity within the agenda for those that have submitted one or have their fact sheets available to them right now, even if they haven't submitted it yet, to speak to the elements that are on their particular fact sheets. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and kind of get a show of hands, if you will, or a lens for how many people would like to speak to their fact sheets that they've completed or perhaps in the throes of completing, so we can kind of have a good review or discussion, if you will, about what has been presented so far within the fact sheet. So if anyone would like to speak to whether or not they have one at this point, that would be great. And I see a couple other people have joined, so we're going to probably pause in this in just a moment and make sure those folks have an opportunity to introduce themselves as well. But for right now, does anyone have a fact sheet with some information they would like to review with the group verbally? Not necessarily a presentation, but just reviewing of the fact sheet information.
This is Haley. I'm filling in for another teammate who went to the first meeting.
Yeah.
Were we just so the first time I saw the fact sheets was yesterday. Really, this morning I was able to look them over. Are we just picking whatever one we feel like we could be helpful with? It wasn't like assigned.
Correct.
There were certain ones that I think we would be better suited to complete than others, obviously.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yes. Yeah, you want to pick the broad service category that you can speak to the most aptly, right? So if that's in your space of one particular broad service category, that would be the one that you would want to complete, and you would not necessarily need to complete the others. We did not assign, we just allowed it for local area experts, if you will, to provide that input, because that's their core strength, right? That's what they know about what's happening in our region. So that gives them a forum to be able to speak to those pieces, but also having some structure and some consistency in terms of how we and gather that information, so that everybody is following a very similar process. And if you have any questions on the fact sheet, Haley, because I know you weren't a part of the last meeting, feel free to reach out to me. We can kind of talk through it a little bit. I know it's it could be challenging to kind of step in for someone that was in a previous meeting and have all the appropriate context for those fact sheets. So if you need some additional clarification, feel free to reach out and we could talk through it.
Sure. Is it okay to try to come to the next meeting with
Absolutely.
something? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the next meeting, we'll be going through the recommendations, which will be based on presentations and the fact sheet information that's been submitted. So again, if people submit their fact sheets, we'll have that information available to reference back to, so to speak, as we look to make recommendations. So you could still submit it after this meeting, of course, right? You could still submit it in advance of the 16th meeting.
Janine, what's your hard deadline for those fact sheets? Just before the 16th?
Yeah, definitely before the 16th. I mean, let's see, I would say probably the 15th by noon, just
Okay.
to kind of give, some hard defined structure on that, just because it gives me an opportunity to kind of reconcile all the fact sheets on the 15th in advance of the 16th. If I don't get them till like 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the evening on the 15th, that might make it a little harder to reconcile it in advance of the meeting on the 16th. So I want to be fair to everyone in that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So, all right. And I'll just send out a reminder on that after this meeting adjourns, so that everybody has that as well. And just to make sure that it's everyone's set up for success for the next meeting, in that email, I'll give some structure to what to expect, how to prepare for our next meeting. So I think that'll be helpful. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and allow a couple people, or perhaps just one person that just joined the meeting, an opportunity to introduce themselves and share what organization they represent, and then we'll circle back and see if there's fact sheet information that we need to review. So Mandy.
Hi, good morning. I apologize. I initially went on the YouTube site, so little challenge this morning, but I've been on since the beginning. But I'm Mandy Hendricks, and I'm with Easter Seals Blake Foundation, and we provide a wide variety of human services, and particularly in the department that I'm in, we provide services to individuals with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities, as well as seniors. And so that ranges from transportation to in-home support, day services, employment services.
Thank you, Mandy. I appreciate it. I'm sorry to hear that you had a little bit of a challenge joining, but I'm glad that you were able to hear everything that's been shared since the start of the meeting. So that's good.
Totally on me, yes, but I've never been on the YouTube site, so that was interesting. I'm like, I don't know how I can talk, but anyways, I figured it out, and here I am. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good opportunity to just kind of clarify. When the emails go out, you do have a very specific link to register, and so that you could be a panelist and be a part of the discussion. If you use the link for the YouTube, it kind of only gives you like view only, right? It's a little harder to engage. So you don't see the invite, so to speak, to become a panelist, kind of start over, because it's probably you're more linked to the YouTube link than this particular one for future meetings. So
yes, I definitely got it. Thank you.
It happens. It's okay. There's enough
I'm starting to show my age.
It's happened to at least one of us, me, right? I've done it before, so don't worry about it. You're good. All right. So let's see. So for the fact sheet templates, does anyone have some information from the fact sheet templates that they've working on or have submitted already that they would like to kind of talk through with the group? Great opportunity for any fact sheet information that has already been put in motion, so to speak, to be discussed a little bit, so that we're not extending time that we could use today into the next meeting, because then it kind of prolongs the other meeting, but also allows us to kind of leverage our time and make sure that we do due diligence in capturing all the feedback that's pertinent to these different broad service categories. So if anyone has some fact sheet information they'd like to share at this time, I'd be grateful, and I think it would be a good use of time. So I'm going to open up the floor for that. I think we had a couple fact sheets submitted, if I'm not mistaken. So if anyone's ready to discuss those fact sheets, this would be the time. So. Anyone have a fact sheet that they would like to go through today? Let me ask a better question. How many people actually have submitted a fact sheet so that I can make sure that I do show it in my inbox? So if there's one that perhaps went into a folder it shouldn't have, so to speak, like it didn't make its way to my inbox, I can look for it. I show of hands, so to speak, how many people have submitted a fact sheet? I see one. Anyone else have submitted a fact sheet? All right. So Lisa, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but since you did submit a fact sheet, did you want to, I know you did a presentation, but did you want to speak to the elements in your fact sheet?
I feel like I really covered them in the talking that I did. I added a little bit more information in the presentation, but all that data is in the fact sheet. So
okay, all right. I just wanted to be fair to you because you did submit one and you did a presentation. So in case there was anything that you wanted to share off of that, you had that opportunity. So, all right. And Elizabeth, did you submit a fact sheet yet, or were you going to submit in advance of the next meeting?
We hope to get you 2 fact sheets ahead of the next meeting. Sorry that we couldn't get it to you sooner.
No, that's okay. I'm only asking because you had asked about the deadline and stuff. So it sounded like you were leaning towards the next meeting, but I just didn't want to be presumptuous. So I thought I'd
appreciate it.
Yeah, I know you're good. Yeah. Anyone else? Right. Let me ask another question. Did everyone definitely receive the fact sheet templates and was able to open them successfully so that if they choose to submit a fact sheet, they're set up for success on that? Did anyone not receive the fact sheet template?
Janine, I just went through all of my emails from you and Brianne and from Pat, and I'm not seeing anything. I feel like I'm in complete dark here.
Okay, let me check on that for you, and I'll personally send it to you so you have it. So I'm glad I asked the question.
I'm thinking I received them on December 19th email from you.
Okay, all right, so good. So you did receive yours, Shaylin. Okay, great. All right, so Steve, my apologies. I'll check into that and see what have happened there, but I want to make sure you receive it nonetheless. So after today's call or today's meeting, I'll personally send it to you, and I'll give you a call and make sure it shows up on your inbox so that you're set up for success in that way.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Anyone else? So I'm going to assume everyone else did receive the fact sheets because I don't hear of any other concerns. Just want to make sure everyone did receive it. Sometimes things happen like that. All right. Okay, so we're going to go ahead if there's no other discussions of fact sheets for today. We're going to go ahead and move to the next item on the agenda. And so this is going to bring this meeting to a close, but just as a quick recap, one, I'm going to make sure that Steve, you have received the fact sheet templates. And if you have any questions, of course, please reach out to me. And for those that are stepping in on behalf of somebody else, in the midst of this planning committee, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. For the reasons I said earlier, sometimes it's hard to grab that context when you're stepping in for someone else, and I want to make sure we're fair to you in that way. The fact sheets are not assigned to any particular organization. They're not assigned a particular broad service category. That is up for you to decide which one makes the most sense relative to what your organization does in the region. And then we would want the fact sheets that you want considered as part of our process for the next meeting when we go to make recommendations. We would want those fact sheets back to me no later than Monday, the 15th of January. And let's just call it noon, just so that I have full time to kind of reconcile all those fact sheets in advance of our meeting. So that would be helpful. And then I will send out in advance of that meeting, I will send out an email that gives some additional context and information about what to expect for that meeting and how to prepare well for it so we can make the most of our time together. So looking for that. And if for whatever reason you do not see that email from me, please reach out to me and say like, hey, I'm not seeing it in my inbox, but hopefully that will not be your story. So Steve, we're going to figure out what happened on your end, so to speak, and make sure it doesn't happen again. And then again, for the next meeting, be looking for the link that gets sent out by Brianne, PAG team, and make sure that you register so that you can get the appropriate link as a panelist, so that you don't accidentally get on the link for the YouTube, because then it's much more difficult to participate as a panelist when you're on YouTube. So that's all I have for right now. So I'm going to be looking for fact sheets from everyone. If everyone chooses to submit one, it's entirely your choice to submit one. If you do submit one, please look for an email from me that says thank you. And if you do not get that thank you note, so to speak, from me, feel free to call me or send me an email and say, hey, did you receive the fact sheet, just on the off chance, it gets blocked or something. I'd hate for us to miss it. So without any further ado, I'm going to go and adjourn the meeting if there's no other questions. So if you have questions at this time, feel free to ask. Otherwise, we will go ahead and adjourn the meeting today. Any questions? All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your investment of time. Look forward to reconvening on the 16th. So we'll see you next Tuesday.